How many companies are AAA? 2 companies, so Bokath 1 Baka 2 only 6 A's are needed to scream at them.
What are you talking about? Alright, going back on my yesterday tirade. Oh, look! I didn't realize literature. Oh, the thing is, it's clearly being forced out. It has higher numbers. It's had higher numbers. I've said this on Twitter. This game not getting mentioned in that category, but Veilguard being mentioned in that category, when Veilguard never even got close to the numbers, let alone their highest number ever is below its current average people playing. Infuriates me that they could even try to claim that's even a no. I'm sorry. And also, this game is doing... Veilguard is doing more damage to the LGBTQ community than it's ever gonna help. I saw very little help in regards to half the stuff in that game. I tried to, like, walk around it yesterday, but I decided no. Boka, speak your mind.
Now, ever so often, there's a game that comes out that meets and exceeds the expectations of the players. It blows our minds. It's so good, but for some odd reason, it doesn't meet the same expectations for games media.
Which is bombastic. Games media, you are there for gamers. I'm sorry. You may hate us. You may despise us, but you are only supported because we exist. There's a reason a lot of your companies are failing, because you're not speaking for us. You're speaking for yourselves. You're speaking to whatever agenda you want. I'm sorry, but you're wrong. And like I say, gamers, and like everyone wants to say gamers is an evil word, and like gamers are like racist and homophobic and stuff. No, gamers are diverse. Every group ever is diverse. Like, this is gonna sound crazy. Don't clip me out of context. Actually, no, what? I won't say it. But literally every group ever is diverse. There are people within groups that do not particularly like how their group is doing. Like, you might not, you can, but someone else might. And to, like, say that an entire group is evil is not exactly... You cannot deal in absolutes. Absolutes are... I can't say always wrong. I would say almost always wrong. Like, they're not always wrong, because that would be an absolute. It would be an oxymoron. The idea is, look at the person themselves. Yes, people in general are stupid. I'm sorry, you're all a little bit dumb, and I love you for it. Like, I'm dumb. I think you've clearly seen some of my dumb actions and heard of some of my dumb things. But the fact is, those same dumb people, some of them like the same things as you. Some of them might be exactly like you, and like all of the things you like, just happen to have one slightly different opinion. That does not mean they're evil. That does not mean they're good.
Takes a backer to know a backer.
Shut up. That means they are people. Humanity is flawed. To be human is to be flawed. Perfection is a non-existent dream. Like, you can
freak off
you can work towards that dream, but you will never obtain it. It's an unattainable dream. Like, I don't understand this divisiveness of, oh my gosh, that person thinks 2 + 2 is fish. They're an idiot. They're maybe they're just trying to be funny. Like, color solid. Shut up.
Our interests aren't aligned. Our perspectives are not necessarily the same, and there's conflict in that. And I think that Black Myth Wukong is one of those games. And don't get me wrong, the game reviewed very well. It got over an 80 on most review sites. But with that said, up until the game's release, and then even after the game's release, it was under a constant barrage of negative criticism that had nothing to do with the game whatsoever. And in that, the game never really got a fair shake, at least not in my eyes. Now, 2024 has been an absolutely insane year for games. There's so many great games to play. And if you're one of those people that are out there that are like, gaming is dying, let me be the first to tell you, you need to play more.
You need to play more games. I never once thought that. Like, is AAA gaming dying? Probably. At this point, I believe it. But there are companies that are doing quite well. You seem to forget that Larian Studios is basically a AAA now. Like, I think they are. Like, I can't be 100% sure. But they used to be indie. And, like, all these indie companies are doing very well. They're doing quite well. I think everyone knows that. I'm trying to think of, like, one reason why you could say that they're dying. Like, gaming itself is dying, but I can't. Maybe games journalism?
How many AAA are they?
How many AAA are they? Who? What are you talking about? But yeah, like, play more games if you think any part of the game industry itself is dying.
Or games, or just not the same ones over and over again.
Yeah, that
the
too.
list, once I get into some of the Game of the Year contenders, it's going to blow your mind because I honestly forgot how many games even came out this year. This isn't about the award. It's about the recognition that these studios deserve, the reward they deserve beyond just making money.
I just realized where I saw this video and why it was fully watched. I fell asleep right here. I watched part of the intro.
It's making sure that it's known why these games are great so that other publishers and studios can see, hey, this is what it is. This is how we make a game that the players love. And it's not, again, just not the money. But already I'm starting to see games media want to preemptively push back about Black Myth Wukong being in the Game of the Year category.
I'm telling you, they have some fair statements about it not being in the category, but those same statements mean that Dragon Age the Veilguard should not be in there. Shouldn't even be included.
How many companies are AAA? 2 companies, so Bokath 1 Baka 2 only 6 A's are needed to scream at them.
What are you talking about? Why are you like this? But, like, some of their, like, excuses and stuff boggle my mind, because I'm like, well, then some of these games don't make sense in this category then. And then, like, your same excuses make it weird that Black Myth is, like, beyond that point.
Gory, and we're going to talk about that. Before that, today's sponsor. War Thunder is a massive free-to-play, large-scale multiplayer game where you can fight anyone from around the world using ground vehicles, aircraft, helicopters, and naval vessels from the mid-20th century to present. The game is available on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. What truly sets War Thunder apart is its commitment to realism and immersion. The graphics and sound design continually evolve, pulling you into battles that feel authentically intense. You're not just playing a game, you're experiencing the heart-pounding chaos of combat. Whether you're barreling through enemy lines in a tank, providing crucial air support, or engaging in thrilling dogfights, the freedom to choose your combat style is up to you. The game features various technologies such as night vision devices, smoke screens, and even nuclear explosions, which can turn the tide of battle in unexpected ways. A recent update called Dance of Dragons is a game changer. Thanks to this update, you can now take command of a variety of French combat vessels, and take control of 2 iconic American aircraft, the A-10 Thunderbolt II attack plane and the F-111 tactical bomber. In addition, there are many other combat vehicles that are available and dozens of improvements at the request of the community. So are you ready to join the fight? Download War Thunder today for free using the link in the pinned comment or description below. If you're a new player...
The only thing I think I know about this game is apparently a lot of people that play this game somehow get a hold of, like, government documents of some of these vehicles just to get them buffed or, like, changed because of how realistic it is.
Or returning after a long break, you'll score some exclusive rewards, rentals for the P-40E-1 aircraft and M4 tank, unique skins, and 100,000 silver lions. Don't miss out. Thank you, War Thunder, for sponsoring this video. We have had a monstrous year in games, and it's wild to think that it's not even over yet with more releases right around the corner. This is about the time of year that Game of the Year candidates are being discussed and debated, and this year we have a lot of difficult choices to make. Dragon's Dogma 2, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Helldivers 2, Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door, Prince of Persia The Lost Crown, Persona 3 Reloaded, Metaphor ReFantazio, and Silent Hill.
I'll be the first to say I love Dragon's Dogma 2. But its in-game is frustrating. And, like, some of the mechanics weren't... They're complicated enough that you should have explained them better. Because I was under the assumption that characters would die permanently. And so I used lots of the wake stones I was saving. And now I have to grind for them to finish the game. So it probably doesn't reach Game of the Year. Like, if it didn't have that, it probably would have. Although, like, there are some tinier things that kind of hurt it, but I would say if we're gonna allow Dragon Age the Veilguard to be in Game of the Year, if Dogma's in the Game of the Year nominations, it's over. It's definitely over.
2 Remake are among the highest scoring games that we've had from reviewers this year. That's 8 games when only 6 games can be qualified as candidates. We're not even mentioning the stockpile of games that were scored just under that, with titles like Stellar Blade, Black Myth Wukong, Tekken 8, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, Unicorn...
And I'm sorry to all you Like a Dragon fans. It's not Game of the Year. It's a funny game. No.
Overlord, Space Marine 2, and more. 2024 has been packed with games, but only a few titles are deserving of being crowned King of the Year, and for many players, that game is Black Myth Wukong. James Throtten of The Gamer penned an article titled, "If Black Myth Wukong isn't nominated for Game of the Year, fans are going to be insufferable."
That's 2 million people that were playing it.
James writes, Black Myth Wukong is a very good action game, taking the Souls-like formula and stretching it into a boss rush format. Its popularity even surpasses that of its inspirations, garnering millions of players in mere days. It's a genuine contender for the Game Awards, but with how stacked 2024 is shaping up to be, competition is fierce. Polygon recently updated its Game of the Year frontrunner list, while the Golden Joystick Awards announced its 6 nominees for this year's PC and console Game of the Year categories. Black Myth Wukong is nowhere to be seen outside of smaller categories, and so TikTok right now is a deluge of angry gamers declaring that games media is corrupt and that it's all a part of some wider conspiracy. The game was...
And I'm sorry to... I love Final Fantasy, but I don't think Final Fantasy Rebirth deserves Game of the Year. I'm sorry. It's not even a full game, honestly. People seem to forget that. There's a reason why it keeps coming out as Final Fantasy VII this word, Final Fantasy VII this word. It's part of a game. Play the actual Final Fantasy and see how big that game is. They made the excuse that it's just too big of a game.
not rigged from the start, it's just been a very, very competitive year. This week alone, we've had Silent Hill 2 Remake, Metaphor ReFantazio, and Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, 3 critically acclaimed hits that are all vying for the spotlight with equal fervor. Earlier this year, we saw the launch of Astro Bot, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, Tekken 8, Helldivers 2, and Dragon...
Of these games that I just think deserve even being mentioned. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. I don't know much about the fighting game community, but I'm pretty sure Tekken 8 does. From what I've heard of its fans, it seems definitely deserving of the love. And that's it. Maybe
Game
Metaphor,
of the Year
but I
for
haven't
me
gotten to
is
play it, so I
Astrobot,
can't say.
with Space Marine 2 close behind it. I haven't played Black Myth Wukong, so I cannot judge it.
Thank you. Kasakern_Kurokage just became a kobold.
God,
Emergency food, yay.
God
Vote
damn it,
with
stop
one vote.
subscribing to me! Damn it. Where's the button to give you all ads? Mwahaha!
Dogma. That's not to mention the stellar year it's been for...
I'll give you a little bit of Astrobot. What I've seen of it, it looks really good, but I just don't... I don't know if it's like that kind of game where it deserves an award that's basically like, I'm better than all of these games.
You do know ads don't work on subs, right?
Indies. Black Myth Wukong, while good, we scored it 4 stars, just doesn't measure up to the greats.
Maybe.
Hell, it's not even the best Souls-like this year, as that award goes to Elden Ring Shadow of the...
I still don't understand how they think Wukong was a Souls-like. I guess because it has inspirations from it? Yeah. That's fair. I think even Legendary Drops once mentioned that it was a Souls-like, and then found out later it wasn't.
Erd Tree. For those that have used Wukong as fuel in a culture war since before it was even released, its absence on these lists is an attack. It's a ploy by game...
And I don't even understand how DLC are even mentioned. DLC shouldn't even get mentions. Like, they should have their own category, at the very least, of, like, best DLC. Obviously.
Games media for reasons, even though it has an open critic aggregate of 82. There's one big argument cropping up across Reddit and slowly replacing all the goth girls on my For You page as to why it deserves to be nominated. It sold well. James, I will speak for those that you are arguing against. Black Myth Wukong doesn't deserve to be nominated because of its sales. It deserves to be nominated because it is the first ever release from a studio, an inexperienced studio, that made a stunningly gorgeous game with great combat, a compelling story, beautiful music, incredibly detailed, and culture.
Still a DLC. Although you could make a argument for Iceborne, because technically it could be its own game.
At this rate, with the amount of remakes, Best Remake of the Year might just as well be its own category too.
Yeah, that too. I think remakes should just get their own
Could be
category
his
at this
own
point.
game.
Yeah, like, I'll give you that excuse, chat. Kobolds, that, games like, DLCs like Iceborne and Shadow of the Erd Tree, well, maybe not Shadow of the Erd Tree, but they're big enough, or bigger than the game themselves, so they kind of deserve to stand on their own a little bit. And I can agree to that. It makes sense. I'm more saying like these smaller DLC, like, no offense to Shadow of the Erd Tree, really good DLC. We beat it. Yes, I am amazing. But it's not its own game. Like, it needs the main game to stand. Because if you just got to play Shadow of the Erd Tree as a standalone, it would feel kind of lacking a little bit compared to its base game.
Really accurate environments.
Did it fix a lot of things and make things look crazy good? Yes. Yes, it did. I may go back because I kind of want to use those monk gloves.
Some of the most unique boss encounters I've seen in a game like this, and themes that we don't often see in games. It was original, fresh, and most importantly, fun. And while many of the games that were mentioned in this article are incredible games, they are just copies of previous titles or even remakes. The industry should be celebrating and rewarding studios that work this hard, take a risk, and deliver something altogether new. And we're not even mentioning how the game sold at a fair price. I am so exhausted by this. Do you want to know why players think...
That's what's even crazier is Wukong was a good price game.
There's some grand
It's crazy,
conspiracy.
and
Do you want to know
yet these
why
other companies are
they think there's some
refusing to go
media
back to being
bias?
fair.
Well, you're not doing yourself any service when you try to minimize the game at every given turn. Called it a Souls-like. It's not even a Souls-like. I actually did the same thing in a video too, so I'm actually not going to take points away from you for that. But I don't understand where this idea that this game somehow became something that...
Well, no, I want to go back through the game. Like, maybe mod it to where I can pick my starting weapon or something. And just go through with just the monk gloves or something. Because I think that would be really funny and cool.
The Culture War LARPers had...
That is the only problem with Elden Ring as a whole, is it's got difficult replayability.
onto even before its release, because to
Is
my
it replayable? Yes. Is it set up for that? Yes, but it's difficult.
recollection, the only thing that I can remember is Games Media were the ones that were pushing these allegations from IGN against Game Science through different articles, and then also at the exact same time there were a ton of people...
All of these game news sites are owned by like the same company. Stop listening to them.
pining over tweets that were completely mistranslated. If anything, it was Games Media that was dragging this game into the culture war, not the other way around. It's just not true. The entire time before this game's release, and this is the reason why I say the game didn't get a fair shake, is that every single time this game was brought up, it was always with a qualifier. Black Myth Wukong is a fantastic action game, but there was this report from IGN that was also based on some mistranslations, but we don't really care about that much. But anyway, they said some things, or they do some things we don't necessarily agree with. Black Myth Wukong, we're giving an 8 out of 10, but just to let you know, we saw some tweets that were also mistranslated, and we didn't really like exactly what they said.
And this is the other thing. The whole hate on Black Myth Wukong came from purposely mistranslated interview. Was it an interview or like a statement or something? But it was purposely mistranslated. And it took a cultural, I guess you could call it meme, out of context and tried to apply a different culture's bias against it. On purpose. And then they tried to claim that it wasn't. And then they tried to claim it wasn't mistranslated. And then they try to claim it never happened. But then they use it every time to explain why it's not the best game. Can't bash the game itself. Gotta drum up some reason to hate it.
If we are counting MMOs, Warframe's Lotus Eaters was the best DLC
It was
of the
always
year.
like that. The game never got a fair chance, at least in the media light. And that's not the same for every other game that was out there. All the rest of the games never had any of this kind of stuff. And the worst part is again, all of these things were alleged, never even proven, yet they were touted as fact. They were included in game reviews, game review videos, and reviews.
It infuriates me. How dare you claim that as fact when it's multiple sources saying it's not.
You don't think that's too far?
Genuine sources.
What do you think is the purpose of that when you put that stuff into an article other than to minimize the game and hopefully steer players away from buying it? That's the point. You want to understand and know why players think there's some grand conspiracy? Well, it's not hard for them to jump to that conclusion when it's staring them 2 inches from their face. On the topic of the game's sales, the writer continues with, it's hardly a compelling defense, but sales figures have long been used as evidence that supposedly anti-woke games like Wukong are what your everyday gamer really wants. In reality, it was a success because the game was marketed to the enormous untapped Chinese demographic. It was only made worse when streamers were supposedly sent guidelines asking them not to mention feminist propaganda or politics. Black Myth Wukong became the poster child for the most toxic Vocal
Yeah, make it like
gamers
that,
on the internet,
on
and
the whole
everything since
video.
its launch
No,
has only
cut this
worked
part
to
out.
further
Best
that
cute
image.
dragon streamer.
Wukong was a monumental hit. There's no denying that. Within days, it
deny
skyrocketed
it.
to the 7th most played game on Steam of all time, the peak concurrent player count of 2.4 million players. But
Feels like
numbers aren't
content
everything.
creators have more
Banana,
brains
the
than the
viral
imbecile
clicker game that
corpus.
generates Steam Marketplace items, has a higher 24-hour peak than Black Myth Wukong right now by over 100,000 players. Avengers: Infinity War and Spider-Man: No Way Home are among the highest grossing films of all time, but they didn't walk away with the pinnacle.
I don't give a frick about the Oscars. Ever since I found out it's rigged from the very beginning, I've never cared. If it was true, like, voting and stuff, I'd care. But I don't, because it's not.
Oscar for good reason.
Frick the Oscars.
Sales do not equal quality, but Black Myth Wukong has been weaponized in a culture war ever since it was announced, and it doing well has only been...
Editor, do not argue with me. They cannot know how scuffed I am. They cannot. I like how my mono died there for a little bit. Ah. Okay, it caught up with me. Okay. Shut up!
used as ammunition to argue that games media is out of...
I want Domino's! Give me a pizza! Give me a pizza! Wait, is Domino's the one that has the nice peppers inside of it? In the box to keep the pizza fresh? I like those. Otherwise, I just want cheesy bread.
touch with gamers. Not being nominated for any Game
Me like cheesy bread. Me like cheesy bread.
of the Year awards. It's
Boka
October.
set
It's
the world
likely
on
going to be in
fire.
the mix
Then
for
a
a
new
lot of
one will
sites
rise
and
up from the
still
ashes.
could be up
A
for
new
many
better world.
categories.
But then I'll burn down all the brownie factories. And also legally, I cannot burn down Sunny's house. Your house I don't care about, but Sunny's house has to stay. I'm sorry.
At the Game Awards is just more fuel to prove that point.
She's not like my daydream wife or anything. Shut up.
Hasn't upset fans because they think it's a good game deserving to be among the best. It has upset fans because they see its absence as an attack in their one-sided feud.
Domino's. The problem with Domino's is you get one, then you want another, then another. That's the same with all pizza, basically. Shut up. Although pizza has really gone downhill.
It makes sense the dragon likes the sun.
He's warm. Shut up! I'm not fawning over anyone!
As we edge nearer the big celebratory end-of-the-year closer that is the Game Awards, we are going to see this outrage spiral. If Black Myth Wukong doesn't get a nomination for the main award, it has a few competitors to shut out in Best Action, its fans will see that as a personal slight. We're witnessing it already, and I've seen my colleagues get attacked.
And here's the thing, don't harass people over this. Some of them probably deserve it. No one has the right to say that except for themselves. But like, why are you doing this? You look so dumb or so... You don't look great when you're harassing someone over something like this. Are they personally attacking you? No. Have they stabbed you? No. Although, maybe. No. Remember what Grandpa Dragon once used to say. Bring the kindness you want to see in this world. And life will reward you. Even if it doesn't right away, kindness will be brought back your way eventually.
Over the past year just for covering the game. If fans are this riled up by an award ceremony, many
I
self-proclaimed...
added that last part. Even if and kindness will come to you. No, just put kindness out in the world. Put out what you want to see in the world. Please ignore the fact that I put out stabs on a daily. But anyways, back to the video.
They've never heard of, or a list of frontrunners that means very little, then I can't see being snubbed from the Game Awards going down well. Man, the lack of self-awareness when saying that the sales of the game were used as ammunition in a culture war, while you yourself are focusing purely on...
And then here's the funny thing. There's actually, like, a review that, like, a big game review site put out where they said there's no women in the game. You guys realize that this is in the game. There's tons of women in the game. I haven't got to play it yet on stream because of, like, some of the issues, but right there. It shows you didn't play the game.
the sales of the game to minimize the entire discussion around the game.
Okay.
That's interesting. It's convenient to go after the outrage of those who can't voice their concerns properly because the writer is absolutely right. Sales does not mean a game should be Game of the Year. If sales were the leading factor, then Baldur's Gate 3 should have lost to Hogwarts Legacy, or Call of Duty should have won for 5 years straight since it was the best-selling game since 2017. There are a slew of other factors here that should be discussed, but the writer and other media pundits aren't taking the time to discuss that. They're just hand-waving the angry gamers and throwing it out into the bin with the rest of the culture war commentary. Now, my question is, why is it that on the topic of game sales, the Chinese player base is used to minimize the overall impact of the game's sales, success, and popularity? Again, to quote the writer, the game was a monumental hit. There's no denying that. Only to follow it up with, but it succeeded because there was an untapped Chinese market of players. Like, those players don't even count? Why aren't we having a discussion on why, censorship aside, Western games haven't been able to penetrate that market as effectively as Black Myth Wukong, especially when there are that many players that could make that much of an impact on a game's sales? Black Myth...
It's because they only look at gamers really as a pocketbook. Western companies. They don't, and they only look at Chinese gamers, ironically, as pocketbooks as well. That's why they've never given them an actual good game.
Myth Wukong is just as deserving as any other title that could go up there for Game of the Year. That's not saying that those games aren't worthy either. They are. But the thing is that it just feels like the coverage around this game, the discussions around this game, have just felt off. Purposefully dishonest in a lot of ways. Black Myth Wukong was incredibly popular. It was incredibly popular with the Chinese because it was the first game that really represented their culture and history in a way that could bridge the gap between nations. Players around the world loved it. They connected with it. And because of that, it brought down cultural boundaries. We don't see that very often. It should be something that everybody should be cheering for and happy for. That is the power of this hobby. That is what it can accomplish at times, but we're losing sight of that. I think this all loops back to the fact that game science did not bend the knee in fealty to games media when they started hurling accusations at them, baseless accusations at them, and demanded an answer. They said no comment. That has nothing to do with the game or anything else right now, and they didn't feel that it was in good faith, and they just ignored it entirely. And I think that games media as a whole took offense to that. They didn't like that too much. They don't like it when their power and position is questioned, when their authority, or what little they have left of it, is questioned. This should be a game that we should be celebrating because of the fact that it broke down cultural boundaries. Beyond that, it was a game that was absolutely gorgeous. It was coming from a studio that this is the first game that they were releasing. It came out relatively polished, fresh-feeling combat, boss encounters that we've never even seen before, with attack stylings we haven't seen, environments we've never been in, atmosphere that was absolutely fantastic. They went out and they scanned real-life statues and architecture to try to make sure that the game had the most authentic rendition possible, and they delivered on it. The game was absolutely incredible. The stop motion animation,
from what I've seen of the game, it has been amazing. Like, I've looked more into it. Like, I haven't spoiled myself, obviously, but, like, very well done. Very, like, there's authenticity and passion in it, clearly.
The anime cutscenes and a bunch of different style of art. It was great. It was such a good game. But all of that isn't being discussed. Instead, it's all locked behind social politics. Black Myth Wukong was nothing short of a revelation for me. The game was a breath of fresh air in a world that is drowning in microtransactions and endless live service models. Much like Baldur's Gate 3 and Elden Ring, it was just a straightforward video game that focused on delivering a great experience without the baggage of modern gaming trends. Selling it at a fair price really made it shine as a prime example of what players have been craving, a complete, immersive experience that doesn't feel like it's constantly trying to upsell you. Like I said before,
it's like, if your game is good, you have no need to upsell. Like, obviously, advertise it. Like, I'm not being dumb here, but you have no reason to oversell it. You have no reason to put microtransactions in. It will make money. Especially if it's sold for a fair price. What people don't realize, what I don't understand why companies don't realize, can you send a video, put it in the reacts, is the more money that more people that can afford it, the more people that will buy it. If it's wanted. Doesn't that make such simple sense? The more people that can afford it, the more people that can buy it. Why do you think any games sell so well? Or are even selling even better now? Because people are starting to do that. They're starting to just buy the cheaper game. Because it's clearly better than what they're keep getting. And they're seeing that now.
Honestly, it's just a damn good video game. I'm not a professional reviewer, but playing Black Myth Wukong was an awe-inspiring journey for me that I can't stop thinking about. From the moment that I started, I was blown away by its visuals, its gameplay, its music. Every single boss fight felt exhilarating, and I found myself savoring every single moment rather than trying to just rush and finish the game. It's a game.
What's funny is I've played a lot of gachas and a lot of, like, pay for games. I currently play a gacha that does it have some really expensive microtransactions in it? Yeah. But for the most part, it really only it has a good gameplay. And it doesn't shove the microtransactions down your throat. The only pop-up it ever has that's microtransaction related is when they release a new, I guess you could call it event skin. It's usually during, like, holidays. And it's like, hey, look! We got some of your favorite characters. Because they don't seem to do what League does, which it constantly gives just the same character skins. Which I noticed they start doing, and I was like, come on, like, just give the... And they sell them for pretty cheap, and they put them, like, temporarily on sale. Because you can buy all the skins, I think, all the time. I don't remember if that's correct or not. But, like, they put all of them on sale the first day. Like, during the event, actually. It's after the event they go back up in price. Why would they put them on sale and then increase the price? You're wondering. It's because they know more people will buy it if it's cheaper. Potentially make way more money just selling it slightly cheaper. Because now more people are willing to spend that. More people are willing to spend smaller amounts of money than they are bigger amounts of money. I have noticed that this company also has a game that started doing the practice a lot of gachas and phone games are doing, where they have this little battle pass of paying, where they give you a few free rewards when you log in, and then they're like, hey, you spend a little money, you can get more of these rewards. And then further down the pass, it's like, spend this much money and get even more rewards. But it's slightly higher. That's stupid, but that's here and there. Like, people don't realize this, but Steam sales are known by the general majority. My dad, who's not a gamer, looks forward to the Steam sale. Doesn't that kind of scream that that's a good idea?
Game that didn't just entertain, it resonated on a deeper level, reminding me why I fell in love with video games in the first place. Now, with that said, the other games that are out there are genuine contenders. I don't want this video to come off like Black Myth Wukong should be the only game of the year and no other game deserves it. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth was absolutely phenomenal. While I know that there's some people out there that think the game doesn't deserve a spot because it's a remake, it's not. It's a full-on reimagining, the combat, the story.
Is it a full-on reimagining? Yes. But is it Final Fantasy VII? No. Same character, same story, but no. It is part of Final Fantasy VII. I love Final Fantasy probably the most out of all the people I know.
Storytelling, how events play out, the music, the atmosphere, all of it makes for a game that's deserving of the crown. Helldivers 2, despite its controversies, was for all intents and purposes the game to beat this year. It sold tens of millions of copies. It felt like a trip back to the old days of Halo 2 and Halo 3 post-launch, where friends are asking when you're going to get on, you're staying up way too late playing the game, and all you could do was think about what was going to happen in the game next. I just recently started playing Metaphor ReFantazio, and I'll be honest with you guys, it's likely this year's game of the year. It makes huge improvements in turn-based games. It has music that has no right being as good as it is. The set pieces and art direction go from breathtaking to nightmare-inducing, and it has character writing and stories that show quality, care, and the authenticity that players have been complaining for years that game studios can't touch without ham-fisting those themes in. It is the perfect example of how to do topics like diversity and inclusivity the right way. I just want to emphasize that this isn't about one game deserving a title over another.
And yes, Metaphor looks really good.
Every title mentioned has its own merits and fan bases, and they're all worthy of recognition in their own right. Black Myth Wukong, however, stands out for its originality and its cultural significance, but also for how this game has been mishandled by the media. It's a testament to how hard Game Science worked on their game and the fresh perspective that they bring. After all, that's what games should be about, creating experiences that are resonating and bringing us together, not just the ones that fit into a narrow definition of success that is made up by a handful of writers. You know, I'm starting to realize that access journalism doesn't work in both ways. You know, because they want to make sure that they're trying to stay in line, that they're doing their best to be able to hold on to their contacts, their insider information, get their keys and their codes, and make sure that they can hold on to their jobs and their relevance. But on the other end, when it comes to some of these smaller studios and publishers, they desperately need the help of games media to be able to be noticed, to get in the front of the eyes of players in the first place. Get their trailers out there, get some articles written and things like that, get them in the algorithms and whatnot. And I think that some of these journalists that are out there view that as an opportunity for them to throw their weight around. That's where they get to be the
I don't think access journalism. I feel if we have a choice, then it should be everyone gets the codes, like the reviewers and stuff, no matter what their opinion, so that there's a fair shake. But it doesn't seem like that's the case anymore, so I don't think anyone should get the codes.
Bully this time. They get to push everybody else around and
everyone
tell them
or no
the way
one.
that it's going to be, and I think that
You don't
Black
get
Myth
to pick and
Wukong
choose.
stood in opposition to that, and they didn't like it too much. And it might not be all of them. I'm not going to say it's every single one of them. There's some damn good journalists that are still out there. I know you guys are probably shaking your heads. No, there's no way. Believe me, they exist.
They do.
I have a few of them that are out there that are some of my favorites. But with that said, I think that's the case here for Black Myth Wukong. You know, it's not about sales and it's not about scores. It's about fairness and image. And I just do not think
BTW Boka watched to the
under
end.
any
There is a very
circumstances
topical
that
bit
Black
at the
Myth
end.
Wukong was
Okay.
painted in the same colors as some of the other games that we've seen this year. Even games that had controversy. Pal World, I mean, that game got absolutely shredded by games media. They hated that game even though the players liked it. But even still then, I don't feel like the game got dogged on this hard. Going back,
not.
Helldivers 2, they went through their entire controversy. Games media didn't even want to touch it. They didn't even want to talk about it. They just brought it up slightly and then walked away from it.
It was, Jimmy. It was snubbed.
just let the gamers be mad. And I think the reason why is because they just didn't see it from our perspective. They didn't care.
Because they know the Game Award has a little bit of a chance of, like, the player's voice having a chance to be the one that gets number one.
See it from
What's gonna be funny is if they do a Player's Choice Award, it's gonna be Black Myth Wukong. So people are gonna be like, how are these different?
Perspective. Which then brings me around to this idea that when it comes to a game like Black Myth Wukong or even maybe even like Space Marine.
I posted on Twitter already. Like, say what you will about it, or post on X. If the game I think is gonna win wins, treat it as just dead. It does not represent you anymore.
Probably less so on that one. I think that there are some writers, some journalists that are out there that see that these games are being used in a culture war, that they are diametrically opposed to whatever the side of that culture war is, and they do not want to give them a win under any circumstances, and that does affect their review at the end of the day. They don't want to hand that over to them. They know that they're going to use it as ammunition against them, and they're never going to hear the end of it, and as a result, well, points get docked, the image of the game gets smeared, and this is the result that you get. I don't know if that's going to be the end result of all of this, but it looks like it is. One thing the reviewer or the writer did get right, there's a lot of games to be vying for a spot as Game of the Year this year. A lot of games deserve it. We've had some awesome games released, and there's still more that are right around the corner. Stalker 2 is, I think, next month. We just had Call of Duty. Black Ops 6 just came out recently.
Don't even
that
mention
game
that
got
game.
reviewed really well. It did really well. The players seem to really like it, which is crazy for a Call of Duty game, but I mean, stranger things have happened.
No, that's true.
So who knows? Maybe there's something else that's sleeping in the wings that we don't know that's going to come out and get a bunch of 10s and 9s. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to share the video with your friends. Make sure to like the video if you enjoyed it. Comment down below what game you think is going to be Game of the Year, or what game you want to be Game of the Year. And yeah, outside of that, my friends, stay cool, stay righteous, stay safe. Make sure to catch me in the next video. Catch me live on Twitch, and I'll check you guys next time.
Family. 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 Family.